The Galactic Survey ship Meridian's Edge hung in geosynchronous orbit above the third planet of System J7739, a world the native inhabitants called Earth. Commander Zixther of the Valkyrian Concordat adjusted his environmental suit's pressure regulators for the 14th time that cycle, his three-fingered hands trembling despite the suit's temperature controls. "Atmospheric readings confirmed," announced Science Officer Curel from her station, her crystalline voice modulated through the translation matrix. "Nitrogen 78%, oxygen 21%, trace gases including carbon dioxide and argon. Surface temperature in the landing zone, 15 degrees Celsius." Zixther felt his circulatory fluids run cold. 15 degrees, that's practically at the thermal death threshold for most known species, and 21% oxygen, that's a combustion hazard. "Indeed, Commander," Curel replied, her bioluminescent patches flickering with concern. "Additionally, the planet's magnetic field is remarkably weak, barely sufficient to deflect the solar radiation. The native biosphere has evolved under constant bombardment of cosmic rays and ultraviolet radiation that would sterilize most worlds we've cataloged." Junior Navigator Lewis, one of the two humans aboard as part of the Concordat's controversial integration program, looked up from his calculations with an expression Zixther had learned to interpret as amusement. The human's primitive face muscles contorted in what their species called a smile. "Commander, with respect, 15 Celsius is actually quite pleasant," Lewis said, his vocal cords producing the crude phonemes of galactic standard with that characteristic human accent. "That's about 59 Fahrenheit. Back home, we'd call that spring weather." Zixther's sensory stalks recoiled in horror. "Pleasant? Ensign Lewis, at that temperature, cellular proteins begin to denature. Metabolic processes slow to dangerous levels. How does your species even function?" "We're warm-blooded, sir," Lewis explained patiently. "Internal temperature regulation. Our bodies maintain about 37 Celsius regardless of external conditions, within reason, of course." 37. Zixther couldn't finish the sentence. That was approaching the boiling point of his own hemolymph. He'd always known humans were strange, everyone in the Concordat knew that, but the reality of their biology never ceased to disturb him. The comm system chimed, and the face of Dr. Anna Kowalski appeared on the viewscreen. The other human aboard, Anna, served as the ship's xenobiology specialist, and she was currently in the landing bay preparing for the surface expedition. "Commander, the survey team is ready for deployment," Anna reported. "All personnel are suited up and environmental systems are checked. We should be able to complete the biological survey in approximately 6 hours." Zixther nodded, his gesture copied from human body language protocols. "Acknowledged, Doctor. Remember, this is a preliminary survey only. We need to understand the microbial ecosystem before we can even consider establishing a research outpost. The Council wants to know if human colonists could survive long-term exposure to Earth's biosphere." Anna's expression, what was that one called? Ah yes, a smirk, suggested she found something amusing about his concern. "Understood, Commander. I don't think survival will be the issue." The transmission ended, and Zixther began the laborious process of donning his own hazmat suit. The expedition would require 3 hours just to properly seal and pressurize the environmental protection gear. His suit alone weighed 40 kilograms and required an external power pack to maintain the climate-controlled interior at a survivable 45 degrees Celsius and reduce the oxygen concentration to a safe 7%. Down in the landing bay, Anna watched the alien crew members struggling into their protective gear with barely concealed amusement. The Valkyrians looked like oversized mantises wrapped in what appeared to be silver sleeping bags with windows. The Trell, massive, slug-like beings from a high-gravity methane world, required specialized equipment that looked more like individual submarines than suits. Lewis approached, and Anna immediately noticed something different about him. "Lewis, where's your hazmat suit?" she asked, though she suspected she already knew the answer. The young navigator grinned sheepishly. "In my quarters. Anna, we're going to Earth. Actual Earth. I've read all the reports. It's basically a perfect Class M planet. Temperature's going to be around 15 Celsius in the landing zone. That's like a nice day in Seattle." Anna crossed her arms. "You know the regulations. All personnel must wear appropriate environmental protection during first contact scenarios." "Come on, Doc," Lewis pleaded. "Those suits are designed for species that evolved in environments nothing like Earth. The Valkyrians come from a moon with an average temperature of -30 Celsius and an atmosphere that's basically just nitrogen and methane. The Trell breathe methane. To them, Earth is literally hell, but to us, it's home." Anna considered this. Lewis was right, of course. The regulations were written for alien species, not for humans returning to their own homeworld. She glanced at her own suit, a bulky contraption that would make her look like she was preparing to walk on the surface of Venus. "All right," she said finally, making a decision that would become the subject of countless Concordat regulation hearings. "But if you so much as sneeze, you're suiting up. Understood?" "Yes, ma'am." Lewis was already heading toward the shuttle, wearing nothing but his standard duty uniform, a simple dark blue jumpsuit, and Anna noticed with a mixture of horror and admiration, he changed into shorts and a t-shirt. The landing site was a meadow in what had once been called the Cascade Range in the Pacific Northwest region of North America. It had been 300 years since the last humans had walked this ground, 300 years since the final exodus, when Earth's remaining population had been evacuated during the climate collapse. The shuttle's landing struts compressed into soil that had known no human footstep for 3 centuries. Inside, the alien crew members waited nervously as the external sensors analyzed the environment. "Atmospheric composition confirmed safe for human physiology," Curell announced, though her voice carried a note of disbelief. "Temperature holding steady at 15.3 Celsius. Relative humidity 65%. Solar radiation at levels consistent with historical data." Commander Zixther, barely visible inside his environmental suit, made a gesture of acknowledgement. "Very well. Humans may exit first. If there are no immediate toxic reactions, the rest of the team will follow in full protective gear." Anna cycled the airlock and the door hissed open. The smell hit her first: clean air, pine trees, growing things. It was a scent she'd only read about in historical records and experienced in carefully controlled biosphere domes. This was different. This was real. Lewis pushed past her, and before Anna could stop him, he'd bounded down the ramp and out into the meadow. She followed more cautiously, medical scanner in hand, monitoring both their vital signs and environmental hazards. Lewis stood in the middle of the meadow, arms spread wide, face tilted up toward the sun. "Oh my God," he breathed. "Anna, do you feel this? Actual sunlight, real wind, this is incredible." Anna had to admit it was extraordinary. The temperature was indeed perfect, cool enough to be refreshing, warm enough to be comfortable. The breeze carried the scent of wildflowers and fresh water. Her scanner showed no dangerous pathogens, no toxic compounds, no radiation beyond normal background levels. Behind them, the rest of the survey team began emerging from the shuttle, moving with the cautious, awkward gait of beings wearing full hazmat protection. Commander Zixther's suit made whirring sounds as its cooling units struggled to keep him from overheating. "How are you doing that?" Curell's voice came through the external speakers of her suit, tinny and distorted. "The readings show you're directly exposed to the atmosphere. The oxygen concentration alone should be causing cellular damage." Lewis laughed, actually laughed, and did a little spin. "This is what we evolved for. This is home. Honestly, it feels like spring." Zixther's suit stumbled slightly as he tried to process this. "Ensign Lewis, You're telling me that these conditions, which require maximum environmental protection for every species in the Concordat, are comfortable for humans. More than comfortable, sir, Anna interjected, her scientific training overriding her wonder for a moment. Humans evolved in these exact conditions. Our species spent millions of years adapting to Earth-specific environment. The oxygen concentration that you find toxic. Our cells require it for basic metabolism. The temperature that threatens you with hypothermia. Our bodies evolved to maintain a constant internal temperature, significantly higher than this, which means we can function across a wide range of external conditions. But the radiation, Curell protested. Our sensors detect ultraviolet radiation at dangerous levels. Lewis held out his arm, showing his skin to the sun. We have melanin, a natural pigment that protects us from UV damage. Sure, we can get sunburned if we're not careful, but moderate exposure is actually beneficial. We synthesize essential vitamins from sunlight. Anna was taking readings now, comparing the environmental conditions to historical Earth data. Commander, I'm detecting microbial life in the soil and air. Earth's ecosystem has recovered significantly in the past 3 centuries. The question is whether humans can safely interact with the evolved biosphere. She knelt down, removing her gloves despite the gasps of horror from the suited aliens. Her bare hands touched the soil, actual Earth soil, and she lifted a sample, examining it closely. Lewis joined her, equally unprotected. The microbial diversity is remarkable, Anna said, more to herself than the others. Bacteria, fungi, actinomycetes. This is a healthy soil ecosystem. And our immune systems. She paused, running a quick blood test on herself using her medical scanner. No adverse reactions. Our immune systems are recognizing and responding to the native microbiome without any pathological response. You're intentionally exposing yourself to alien pathogens. Zixther's voice cracked with panic. This violates every first contact protocol in the Concordat regulations. These aren't alien pathogens to us, Commander, Lewis said gently. This is Earth. These are the microorganisms our ancestors coexisted with for millions of years. Our immune systems evolved alongside them. Anna stood, brushing the dirt from her hands. In fact, Commander, I'd hypothesize that exposure to Earth's microbiome might actually be beneficial for humans. Our species evolved in constant interaction with these organisms. The sterile environments of space stations and colony worlds might actually be detrimental to our long-term health. For the next several hours, the survey team worked across the meadow and into the surrounding forest. The alien crew members moved awkwardly in their suits, requiring frequent breaks to cool down or warm up, to adjust oxygen levels, to recalibrate their environmental controls. They took samples using long, sterilized collection tools, terrified of direct contact with the deadly Earth environment. Meanwhile, Anna and Lewis moved freely, breathing deeply of the fresh air, feeling the sun on their skin, touching trees and plants and soil with bare hands. Lewis found a stream and before Anna could stop him, cupped his hands and drank directly from it. Lewis, no, we haven't tested the water quality. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, grinning. It's fine. Cold, clean, probably some bacteria and minerals, but nothing our systems can't handle. This is how our ancestors drank for thousands of years. Anna ran a quick scan of the water. He was right. It contained microorganisms, but nothing pathogenic to humans. In fact, the mineral content and pH were well within safe parameters for human consumption. Curell approached, her suit making clicking sounds. Dr. Kowalski, I must object to these reckless actions. You're contaminating yourselves with unknown biological agents. Anna smiled, she couldn't help it. Officer Curell, from your perspective, I understand this looks insane. But you have to understand, this is what humans are. We're not fragile creatures that need to be protected from our environment. We're persistence predators from a world that forged us in fire and ice and radiation and 1,000 different ecological pressures. This planet that you find hostile, this is mild compared to what our species has survived. As if to emphasize her point, a sudden weather change occurred. Clouds rolled in from the west, and within minutes, rain began to fall. The alien crew members panicked, their suit sensors screaming warnings about unexpected moisture and temperature fluctuations. Commander Zixther's voice was barely audible over the sound of his suit's emergency systems. Evacuate. Return to the shuttle immediately. This precipitation could compromise suit integrity. But Lewis just tilted his head back and let the rain fall on his face. Anna joined him, feeling the cool drops on her skin running through her hair. It was glorious. "It's just rain, Commander," Lewis called out. "Water falling from the sky. It happens all the time on Earth. It's one of the primary mechanisms of the hydrological cycle." "The temperature of this precipitation is 7 degrees Celsius, Zixther protested, his suit now making alarming beeping sounds. "Hypothermia risk is critical." Anna checked her scanner. Her core body temperature remained stable at 37 Celsius. Lewis was the same. Their bodies were doing exactly what they were designed to do, maintaining homeostasis despite external conditions. The rain lasted 20 minutes, and when it passed, the sun emerged again, creating a rainbow across the valley. The alien crew members huddled near the shuttle, their suits steaming, systems strained to their limits. Meanwhile, Anna and Lewis stood in the meadow, slightly damp but otherwise completely comfortable. "Feels like spring," Lewis said again, and this time Anna had to agree. The return trip to the Meridian's edge was quiet. The alien crew members were exhausted from their brief exposure to Earth's harsh environment. Several required medical attention for stress-related symptoms, though none of their suits had actually failed. Anna compiled her report in the shuttle, her conclusions clear. Earth had recovered. The ecosystem was diverse, stable, and thriving. More importantly, humans could not only survive in this environment, they could thrive. No suits, no environmental controls, no protective gear beyond basic clothing. Earth was, as it had always been, the perfect world for humanity. Commander Zixther reviewed her preliminary findings with visible distress. "Dr. Kowalski, your report suggests that humans can inhabit Earth without any environmental protection whatsoever. You're recommending that the Council approve unlimited human colonization of this world." "That's correct, Commander. But the conditions, the temperature fluctuations, the oxygen concentration, the radiation, the pathogens." Lewis leaned back in his seat, still wearing his shorts, completely relaxed. "Commander, I know this is hard to understand, but those aren't hazards for us. That's just Earth. That's the environment that made us what we are." Anna nodded. "The truth is, Commander, humans are remarkably adaptable. We evolved to handle variability. Our ancestors survived ice ages and heat waves, droughts and floods, predators and plagues. We spread across every continent on Earth, from Arctic tundra to tropical rainforests, from mountain peaks to ocean shores. We're not specialized for one narrow ecological niche like most species. We're generalists. We adapt." Zixther was silent for a long moment, his sensory stalks drooping. Finally, he spoke. "The Council is not going to believe this. They'll think I've lost my sensory processing faculties. A world that requires full hazmat protection for every known species in the Concordat and humans walk around in shorts. Saying it feels like spring." "With respect, Commander," Anna said gently, "that's exactly the point. Earth isn't a death world for every species. It's only a death world for species that didn't evolve here. For humans, it's home, it's paradise, it's exactly what we need." Lewis stretched, yawning contentedly. "You know what I'm looking forward to? When we establish the first colony, swimming in the ocean, hiking in the mountains, sleeping under the stars without a dome over our heads, eating food grown in actual soil with actual rain and sunshine. That's what being human is supposed to be about. Curel's bioluminescent patches flickered with what Anna had learned to recognize as thoughtfulness. Perhaps that explains much about your species. Humans have always seemed reckless to other Concordat members. You take risks that seem insane to us. You explore dangerous environments without adequate protection. You expose yourselves to hazards that would kill most beings. Because what's hazardous to you is normal to us, Anna finished. We're not being reckless from our perspective. We're just being human. As the shuttle docked with the Meridian's edge, Anna looked back at the blue and white marble hanging in space below them. 300 years ago, humanity had fled Earth in desperation, convinced that their homeworld was dying. But Earth had healed. The scars of industrialization and climate change had faded. The ecosystems had rebalanced. Nature had recovered. And now, finally, humans could come home. The doors opened, and the alien crew members rushed out, desperate to reach the safety of the ship's controlled environment. Anna and Louis followed more slowly, reluctant to leave behind the fresh air and natural light of Earth. "You know," Louis said as they walked through the sterile corridors of the ship, "I never really understood what we'd lost until today. All those stories about Earth, the historical records, the archived videos, they couldn't capture what it actually feels like. The weight of real gravity under your feet, the smell of living soil, the taste of water that's part of an actual planetary cycle instead of just recycled through filters over and over." Anna nodded. "We've been living in artificial environments for so long that we forgot what natural feels like. But today proved something important. We're not adapted for space stations and colony domes. We're adapted for Earth, and Earth is still here, waiting for us." In the weeks that followed, Anna's report sparked fierce debates in the Galactic Council. The idea that any species could thrive in such a hostile environment without technological protection was unprecedented in Concordat history. Some members accused Anna of fabricating data. Others suggested that humans were somehow genetically modified superbeings, designed for warfare or extreme environment survival. But the evidence was undeniable. The sensor logs, the medical scans, the environmental readings, all confirmed that humans had spent 6 hours on Earth's surface, exposed to conditions that would kill most galactic species within minutes, and they'd been completely fine. Better than fine, they'd been happy. Eventually, the Council approved the Earth Reclamation Initiative. Humans throughout the Concordat received permission to return to their homeworld, to re-establish civilization on the planet their ancestors had abandoned 3 centuries earlier. And on the day the first colony ship landed in that same meadow in the Cascade Range, Louis was there, stepping out onto the soil in shorts and a t-shirt, breathing deeply of the fresh spring air, and saying to anyone who would listen, "Feels like spring." Epilogue. From the personal log of Commander Zixther, Valkyrian Concordat Survey Service, retired. It's been 5 years since the Earth Reclamation Initiative began, and I must admit, my understanding of humans has evolved. I've watched them build cities without environmental domes. I've seen them swim in oceans teeming with microorganisms that would be classified as biohazards on any other world. I've observed them climbing mountains, exploring caves, and engaging with their environment in ways that still make my circulatory fluids run cold. But I've also come to understand something profound. Humans aren't reckless. They're not suicidal. They're just home. Last month, I visited Earth, with full environmental protection, of course, and Dr. Kowalski invited me to her family's homestead. She served me filtered water and synthesized nutrients adapted for my biology while she and her family ate what they call a barbecue. Food cooked over an open flame, exposed to atmospheric contaminants, crawling with bacteria that they claim adds flavor. Her daughter, barely 6 solar cycles old, ran outside wearing minimal clothing, playing in soil and rain and sunshine without a care in the world. When I expressed concern for her safety, Dr. Kowalski just smiled and said, She's doing exactly what human children have done for millions of years. She's learning to be part of Earth. Perhaps that's the real lesson here. The Concordat has spent millennia trying to protect its members from harsh environments, building ever more sophisticated barriers between ourselves and the natural universe. But humans, they embrace it. They're part of it. And maybe, just maybe, that's what makes them truly special. End log. The end.